Welcome into the college football every game on the board podcast, bowl game edition, part number 2 here. We got Mid-Major Matt at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter from ESPN Richmond. Matt, welcome in, man. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Sad the bowls are halfway through, but Drew, last night's game was the reason why I love bowl season. I mean, Kansas and UNLV, you had Kansas, who I think just got another penalty on them even after the game. And then you had UNLV that was hanging tough. And then it was just a fun game last night. And I think that's the picture of bowl season.
Yeah, the matchups, the handicaps behind it, guys. That's what this podcast is about, trying to get you on the right side of some of these games, both sides and totals. We'll be breaking them down. This is part number 2. We already did part number 1, wherever you're downloading your podcast at. If you want to go listen to it, it's actually all the games are in the books. But either way, guys, is part number 2. It includes, we'll just hit tonight's games real quick. Really, we're going to SMU Boston College in the Fenway Bowl. Thursday, December 28th. We're hitting all the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday games, which puts us down to Toledo and Wyoming in the Arizona Bowl Saturday night. We'll also give a little something here on Liberty and Oregon as well in the Fiesta Bowl. So, guys, we're getting into it here with Mid-Major Matt from a betting perspective. Matt, first off, any quick thoughts for the people watching live here on YouTube or on Twitter? We got North Carolina, West Virginia going at 5:30 Eastern, and then 8 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. It's Louisville, USC, and Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. Are you liking anything with the 3 games left on Wednesday night?
So I put some sprinkles down, a couple of things, and for the most part, Drew, I preach patience and small unit size when it comes to bowl season. Unless you really love something, you should go crazy. But I put down a couple of bets for tonight, Drew. I took the team total over for West Virginia. I got 29.5. A lot of the opt-outs for North Carolina are on the offensive side, but North Carolina's defense doesn't scare me. I really think Jaheim White's going to have a solid game, so maybe if your book has him scoring 2 touchdowns, I think Garrett Green's going to have a really good game. So I think West Virginia is going to score. And then I actually took a chance on USC +7 tonight. Look, I think we see Caleb Williams not being in the game, and we're like, well, USC's not very good. And then you see, Marshawn Lloyd is out, and then one of their wide receivers is out, but there's still a ton of talent here. And I think Miller Moss, with time to prepare, is going to have a solid game for USC today. So I took a little shot at +7. You look at Louisville's offense, which has been, hit or miss. They're not going to have their number 1 wide receiver. They're not going to have their number 1 running back. So I think Louisville could be a little bit taking a step down. So I took a shot with USC +7. Obviously, I think, Drew, you could tell me because you're looking at the board. I'm guessing most of the 7s are gone here. So I got it 7. And then my final play, I took a small piece of Oklahoma State money line. Look, Texas A&M has nobody. Their whole defense has opted out pretty much. The defensive coordinator is going to be the new DC at Syracuse, but he's staying with the team briefly, but who knows how much focus he's had. They're on the 3rd string quarterback. There's some wide receiver issues and things like that. So who is going to play for Texas A&M? Gundy is 11-5 in bowl games for Oklahoma State, and Ollie Gordon's playing. That's all I really need to know. So I took a small piece of Oklahoma State money line for tonight.
Like that. Gundy, the mullet, 11-5 in bowl games. Yeah, it's a good one tonight in the Texas Bowl, Houston, Texas there. And yeah, you're right. It's all 6.5s across the board. BetOnline.ag, the sponsor of the podcast, hanging a 6.5. That's Louisville as the favorite against USC. And it's normally a really good bowl game, the Holiday Bowl there in Petco Park, where the San Diego Padres play. So a good Wednesday night of college football here. We got Thursday, 11 a.m. starting us off. That's 8 a.m. Pacific in the Fenway Bowl, Boston, Massachusetts. Guys, watch out for weather this time of year as well. It looks like SMU, the Mustangs, -9 in the hook as the quote-unquote road favorite. 47.5, 48 being the total. And I say quote-unquote road favorite because Boston College is actually playing in the game, although it is in Fenway Park. So we get the Mustangs up against BC in Fenway Park. Interesting handicap here, Matt. What are you thinking to kick us off on Thursday?
Well, it's pretty funny that you mentioned the weather here. Pouring rain and 18 to 20 mile per hour winds. And that's why we've seen the total come down on this. And I think it'll come down even more. You're just not going to have great weather here. And you're playing in a stadium, which, the winds could be an issue. Sometimes you get a lot of winds and like the stadium's built a little differently and things can, maybe the winds aren't as much of a factor. I mean, we're playing in a baseball stadium, so the winds will be a factor here. You look at SMU. Both of these teams actually have pretty clean transfer portals and opt-outs and things like that for the most part. Obviously, Preston Stone's not going to be a quarterback for SMU, but I really like Kevin Jennings. He went into Tulane and won that championship game. But what's the motivation here for SMU? You're flying to Boston. You're playing a baseball stadium at 11 a.m. You won the AAC, and you get an ACC opponent in Boston College, who I don't know how many of their fans are going to show up either. BC's 2-5 against other bowl teams so far this season. They've lost 3 straight games entering this one. The one thing of note here is Thomas Castellanos is the starting quarterback. Emmett Moorhead, the backup, is in the transfer portal. So if Castellanos gets hurt, they're going to the third string quarterback. This was a tough one, Drew. I mean, I think the under is probably the only way to go because, with the weather the way it is, I think that this is an under. The other thing I would kind of look at here is if one of these teams gets a solid lead, I could see the other team kind of packing it up and saying, like, I'm done, like in the weather, in the rain, in the wind. So maybe a good live betting situation if it looks like either team doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, I'll just add on. I think the weather, it really hurts SMU, and what they look to do offensively. If it is raining and windy, I think it's going to hold them back. What Lashley and them are looking to do, throwing the football around. So -9 in the hook might be a lot to cover there. I don't like Boston College. To tell you the truth, I haven't bet them a lot, but I thought that was a good point. It is a baseball stadium, so the wind, you're not going to get upper deck all the way around. It's likely to be a factor. So a good one there, Fenway, to kick us off. We got football games all day on Thursday because it's 2:15 Eastern. Next game up. This is another one in a baseball stadium here. Yankee Stadium, the Pinstripe Bowl, Bronx, New York, Rutgers and Miami. Scarlet Knights -2 in the hook is the road favorite, 41.5 the total. This is one that opened up Miami -4.5. Now we're seeing Rutgers -2.5 the day before kickoff, Matt. Huge move here. Some of it being my money. It's Scarlet Knights or pass is what I would tell people, just because we just talked about the weather in the Northeast. We're getting a bunch of South Florida kids heading up north to play Rutgers. I don't know. It just doesn't set up well for me for the Hurricanes. Are you liking anything in the Pinstripe Bowl?
So rain and wind early in the day, but it looks like it's going to die down, and it looks like it may not be a factor by kickoff for this one. Something certainly to watch. Of course, we know the winds and we know weather changes, but as of we did this, like I looked this morning, it's all looks like it's going to be in the morning and in the afternoon. It's not saying it's going to be great weather, but the rain and the wind, it looks like is not going to be a factor in this one. And I've always talked about when it comes to bowl season, one of my favorite wagers is to fade Miami in a meaningless bowl game. Drew, I don't think I'm going to do that here. I actually don't think I'm going to do that here. Here's my thing, and I don't love Miami. And you look, transfer portal, Tyler Van Dyke, he's going to Arkansas. Colby Young, the wide receiver, running back Donald Chaney, linebacker Corey Flagg, defensive end Jafari Harvey, and then opting out Cam Kinchins, James Williams, Leonard Taylor, Matt Lee, Javion Cohen, 2 of those guys on the offensive line. And you see all these names, and you're like, Miami, what are they going to do? Are they going to just possibly not show up here? But Drew, I don't like Rutgers at all. Like, I think Rutgers is a terrible matchup here. I think if you give me a lot of the other teams in the Big Ten that actually have legitimate offenses, like I don't know how Rutgers moves the ball even against some of these Miami guys. Remember, Ruben Bain, who is arguably Miami's best defensive lineman, is playing in this game because he's a freshman. You look at Rutgers, their number 1 corner, Max Melton, is opted out. Their tight end, Johnny Langan, who's one of their only offensive weapons, he's out for surgery. 2 of their backup quarterbacks are in the transfer portal. And I argue that Rutgers has the worst quarterback room in the Power 5. And so this is a team that's on a 4-game losing streak. They're 2-6 against other bowl teams. And yes, they will have the home field advantage in this situation because obviously they're closer to the Bronx than Miami is. But what I may do, Drew, is I may wait till close to kickoff and see if I can't bleed another half point out of this thing. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I kind of like Miami in this situation, Drew. I just don't see how Rutgers' offense could take advantage of a lot of these things if Miami is even slightly focused in this contest.
Good breakdown there, Matt. So we go from Fenway Park to Yankee Stadium down to Orlando, Florida, NC State, and Kansas State up next. And one of the best bowl names of the season, at least in my opinion here, Matt, we get the Pop-Tarts Bowl, Camping World Stadium, Orlando, Florida, the old Citrus Bowl here. NC State, Kansas State, -2 point favorites, 47 being the total here, Matt.
Rain earlier in the day, but it looks like it's supposed to be clearing up, so the weather should be nice down in Orlando. As always, it's Florida. Things change, so don't hold me to it if it starts raining at the beginning. As of now, it looks like that it's not going to occur during kickoff. And this is one of these classic cases, Drew, of a team that is going to be, is going to be happy to be there versus a team that I don't know if they're happy to be there. You look at Kansas State. Their starting quarterback, Will Howard, is in the portal. So that means Avery Johnson will be their starting quarterback. And he's more of a runner type. Not to say that he's not good, because he's gotten some experience as the season's gone along, but he's more of a runner than a passer. Running back Trayshawn Ward, safety Kobe Savage, cornerback Will Lee, defensive end Nate Matlack. They've got 2 opt-outs on offense, wide receiver Phillip Brooks and tight end Ben Sinnott. Their offensive coordinator left for Texas A&M, Colin Klein. So there's a lot of pieces that are not going to be here for Kansas State. And on the other side, you look at NC State, there's some little misses here in the portals, MJ Morris, but we knew that for a while now. Michael Allen, the running back, Porter Rooks, the wide receiver. Peyton Wilson, the linebacker, did just say he is opting out for the game. He is their best defensive player. This team's won 5 straight since their bye week. And, NC State's a team that I've enjoyed betting on at times because, the Robert and Brennan Armstrong dynamic has worked at times. It hasn't worked at other times. I just wonder what kind of Kansas State team we get for this one. They are, the key for handicapping bowl games, Drew, and I'm sure you agree, you can't treat this like week 4. Week 4, I'm picking Kansas State over Texas A&M in a neutral field game because they'll have all their players, they'll have their full roster. That's not the case in this situation. So my lean here is to NC State. The ACC hasn't had a terrible bowl season so far. Obviously, most of their teams haven't played yet, but I kind of lean to add to NC State here. What do you think?
I mean, I like your breakdown. I haven't dug too deep into this one for whatever reason. I do agree with you in terms of, it's vastly different bowl season and the regular season. And I'm with you. I would have bet Kansas State if this was a regular season game, all things, the players and everything playing the same. But one thing I would bring in is like the Big 12 and the ACC so far this year. And you touched on it a little bit. In terms of, I like to look at how the conferences are doing because that's where the majority of these teams' games are coming from, playing within your conference. And if your conference is out to a great start, like actually, Matt, I saw on Twitter, you said something about the Sun Belt. And coming into this season, the Sun Belt was the best conference in bowl season since 2014, since the playoffs started. But so far this season, they have not been as good. And therefore, I downgrade the Sun Belt teams coming up. That's just how I go at it. And, you bringing up the ACC hasn't had many games. I do have question marks about the ACC. I mean, I know you're an ACC guy, but I am a little bit pumping the brakes on it. And I like the Big 12 conference overall. So that's a big part of my handicap in this one.
No, and I understand. And the other key is, you may have an unmotivated team at kickoff, but if they're hanging around and if they start getting positive things, then the better team eventually wins. So the key for NC State, which at times has had some slow starts, is if Kansas State doesn't want to be there, go up 14-0, take their will away, which I don't know necessarily if they're going to be able to do here. It's not one of my favorites. It's only a lean. We talk about every game on this podcast. Kansas State has the better pedigree than NC State, but I feel like NC State will want to be there more than Kansas State will.
Sure. Yeah, I could feel that. I mean, Kansas State's made some big bowl games of recent. So, hey, Orlando, it should be, I believe, decent weather, although there's a cold front coming through Florida. So watch that, guys, with the weather. Arizona, Oklahoma, 9:15. This is the nightcap on Thursday, December 28th. Alamo Bowl, another good one, usually. San Antonio, Texas. Arizona and Oklahoma. Man, what a season for Arizona. -2.5 here at some shops. We do have Bet Online, betonline.ag. The game starts here. Sponsor of the podcast. If you're looking for a sports book, go check out Bet Online. They're hanging a -3 on Arizona, 59.5 being the total. We don't have to worry about the weather here in the Alamo Dome. Are you liking anything Pac-12, Big 12, Arizona, and Oklahoma, Matt?
Arizona's been one of my favorite teams to bet, especially during this win streak. They've won 6 straight. And you look at this, and we talk about this all the time. You want to look at the transfer portal. You want to look at the opt-outs to see how excited a team is. Opting out is the left tackle, Jordan Morgan. He's got an NFL future. And potentially we may see one other person, maybe, although nothing's been announced. You might want to look and see if Jacob Cowing plays in this game. He's got potentially an NFL future too. But other than that, Arizona is ready. for this game. You look at Oklahoma, their offensive coordinator, Jeff Lebby, is going to Mississippi State. Dylan Gabriel is in the transfer portal. A couple of running backs in the transfer portal. Their left guard is in the transfer portal, and 2 other offensive linemen are opting out here. So it's going to be the start of the Jackson Arnold era for Oklahoma. Look, at 3, I might be interested in Oklahoma. I think this is one of those things where people are kind of betting motivation because Arizona, as I said, everybody's playing pretty much, and it's Oklahoma, and they're not in a game they're used to being in. But I almost think, Drew, this Jackson Arnold thing kind of makes me think that Oklahoma is going to come out and play better. Their whole wide receiving core, for the most part, there was 1 or 2 injuries as the season went along, but I almost think, Drew, Oklahoma is the play here at 3 or above, because I think that people are going to think that they're not going to want to be in this game. But I think having the young quarterback and his full complement of weapons, much like USC, and I hope it's USC, obviously, I think Oklahoma might be a little bit more interested in this game. I think it's going to be a fun game. I almost think, Drew, this could be one of those games where you could potentially live bet and get both teams at a plus price and then kind of try and middle this thing. Like maybe Oklahoma gets out to a 10-0 lead and you take Arizona plus some points live. And then maybe Arizona seesaws ahead for a lead and you get Oklahoma live. I think this is going to be a really fun game, but pregame, my lean is slightly to Oklahoma. I may wait to see about 3.5 if it goes up a little bit more. But I think the Sooners are going to be a little bit more interested for this one than people think.
And real quick here, Matt, you're bringing up the underdog here, and I'm going to guess just from what people have been talking about with Arizona, you're in the minority, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in the sports betting world, which I know you know. What are you thinking about if you like the underdog? Split the bet, +3 and also on the money line, because it just seems like when some of these underdogs are in the game, they just win outright a lot of the times. That's at least what I'm picking up from the last couple bowl seasons. You think there's anything to that?
I actually think the more correlated bet might be the over here, Drew. I don't think Oklahoma is going to win a lower scoring game in this situation. They certainly can. But I think that this is more of if you like Oklahoma, it's an over. If you like Arizona, it's an under potentially. That's one of those things where I think Oklahoma wins a shootout. I think Arizona can win a shootout, but I think Oklahoma prefers a shootout here. So more to me, I think it's Oklahoma and the over would be the correlated bet.
Okay. And also keep in mind, guys, the first 17 bowl games, the underdog was 12-5 against the spread. So look there to the team catching the points. We get Clemson and Kentucky flipping the script here to Friday, December 29th in the Gator Bowl. That's Jacksonville, Florida, where the Jaguars play their home games. 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific kick here. We get Clemson and Kentucky, ACC-SEC matchup. Clemson, the Tigers, -5-point road favorites, 45 being the total. If you do like Clemson, look at Bet Online, -4 in the hook right now. Are you liking anything with the Tigers and the Wildcats here?
So watch the win for this game. Obviously, it's still 2 days away, but there are some potentially double-digit wind gusts involved in this game. Just something to watch for. It's just one of these things I'm kind of putting out there. This is another classic case, Drew, of one team that has a lot that's not going to be available and one team that has very little. Kentucky, who is actually 1-5 against other bowl teams. And I kind of look at that, Drew, because you want to see how these teams got to their records. And Kentucky only has 1 win against another bowl team. Their portal guy is only one, defensive end Keaton Wade. The key here is Ray Davis, the running back, who really kind of makes this offense go. He's declaring for the draft, but he's also playing in the game. And I think it tells you something here, Drew. I think it tells you where this team's head is at, that this guy is going to the draft. And there's another guy, Andrew Phillips, who's also declaring for the draft. He's also playing in this game. You look on the other side, Clemson, who has won 4 straight games. And I give credit to Dabo because when they were 4-4, I thought this season was going to go down the drain. And he's kind of rescued this thing. But you look, wide receiver Bo Collins, offensive lineman Mitchell Mays, safety Andrew Mukuba. They're all in the transfer portal. Some of them may have already gone to other places. Opt-outs, the corner, Nate Wiggins, linebacker Jeremiah Trotter, defensive lineman Ruke Orohurohu, and cornerback Sheridan Jones out due to a hip injury, which means they're going to start 2 true freshmen at corner. Dabo's done a really good job here, Drew. And at 4-4, they could have finished out 6-6. They could have limped down the stretch. I wonder, though, if this month off that they've kind of had maybe ends their season here. They're all really excited to play this last game. I kind of lean a little bit to Kentucky, and especially if the win comes into play, because that means that Cade Klubnik, who's got some of the better weapons in this game, maybe that kind of neutralizes the Clemson passing game a little bit. I lean to Kentucky here, and usually, as you just said, when we look at the conferences, it feels like the SEC, although this year that's not necessarily always the case, feels like the SEC usually wins this game. So my lean here is to Kentucky. I know that the ACC took a couple of those rivalry games in the final week of the regular season, but this is bowl season, and Kentucky feels like they really want to be here. So slight lean to Kentucky in this situation.
Matt, who are the guys that were declaring for the draft and also playing?
Ray Davis and Andrew Phillips of Kentucky. One's the running back, and I forgot to write down the position for the other guy, but he's declaring for the draft, and he's playing.
This is a side note. I love that when like the team's best players declare for the draft and then play in the bowl game for like motivations, the other guys in the locker room seeing that. Whereas when they like opt out, it's almost the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Do you think another question for you handicapping wise, do you think there's something to that? That's an angle I love to bet anyway.
Well, I think it tells you motivation. I mean, look, there are a lot of guys who could just say, I'm not playing in this game. I don't want to, and I'm not going to fault all of them. Like Caleb Williams has nothing to prove. As much as I, the college football fan, would love to see Caleb Williams play one more game, he has nothing left to prove. And if by some chance he gets hurt, like that ruins his NFL career. Ray Davis probably has a very nice NFL career ahead of him, but he's saying, all right, I want to play this game. I want to win this game. Now, look, here's the one thing. It was Malachi Corley of Western Kentucky. Played the first drive or two for Western Kentucky and then sat out the rest of the game, may have even made it to halftime, then didn't play the second half. So while these guys may play, they may not play the whole game. They may not play their usual snap count. So like these are the things that we kind of can't handicap here when it comes to this sort of thing. But it is a great story to see that these guys are in the draft and yet they are going to play anyway.
Yeah, I love that angle. And yeah, you bring up the Western Kentucky game, man, what a comeback for them against ODU to kind of in the beginning of bowl season anyway. Friday, 2:00 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific in the Sun Bowl, El Paso, Texas. Beautiful setting there where the UTEP Miners play their home games. Notre Dame and Oregon State. We are seeing the Irish -6. Bet Online hanging a -6.5. That's Notre Dame is the road favorite. 41 in the hook being the total. Low total. Notre Dame laying 6 in the hook. Are you liking anything in this one, Matt?
So this is going to take me a minute to go through all of this. So let's start out with Notre Dame. Their offensive coordinator left for Troy. Transfer portal, center Zeke Corral. All their wide receivers pretty much are gone. Rico Flores, Tobias Merriweather, Chris Tyree, all in the transfer portal. Tight end Holden Stays. Pardon me if I don't get the guy's name right. Opting out, Sam Hartman. Audric Estime, the running back, the right tackle, Blake Fisher, the left tackle, Joe Alt, cornerbacks, Cam Hart and Thomas Harper, linebacker, Maris Liufau. They're going to have a freshman left tackle. I saw this stat on another website. 11 of the top 12 offensive players are out for this game in terms of snap count. So the 11 of the top 12 players in terms of snap count on offense for Notre Dame not playing in this game. On the Oregon State side, their coach is gone. A lot of their coaches are gone. Their passing game coordinator is the new head coach. The cornerbacks coach, Anthony Perkins, is the defensive coordinator. In the portal, DJ Uiagalelei and his backup. So Goodbranson, who was not very good at quarterback, is going to be their starter. Tight end Jack Velling, linebacker Easton Mascarenas Arnold, who is the leading tackler, safety Achille Arnold, cornerback Jermod McCoy, their kicker Atticus Sappington, all in the transfer portal, opting out, wide receiver Anthony Gould, right tackle Talise Fuaga, and Damian Martinez unlikely to play. He had that off the field incident, and they thought he was going to play anyway, but he's not going to play. So basically what I'm telling you here, Drew, is it's a extremely hard game to handicap. You don't know. Apparently there was a story that one of the guys opted out for Notre Dame and didn't tell anybody. So I don't know what's going on at Notre Dame. To me, and this is one of the things I like to do sometimes, you could go and take the under for this game, and I wouldn't fault you for it. But what I would do is take the team total under for both of them. Just in case it's a lopsided game, you at least hit one. Notre Dame's is 23.5. Oregon State's is 17.5. From what I could tell, most of the opt-outs for Oregon State are on offense, except for their leading tackler and a couple of other small pieces. And they have the cornerback coach as their defensive coordinator. So I think their defense is going to show up here. I told you about all the people opting out for Notre Dame in terms of their wide receivers, Sam Hartman, Audric Estime. 23.5 seems like a very high number for their team total. And then Oregon State's team total is 17.5. Nice, neat numbers for both of those. I would actually, and as I said, if your book doesn't have team totals or anything like that, the game under is probably a good bet. I'm going to take the team total under for both teams and hope that we get like a, 17-10 type of game and I hit both of them.
Like it, Matt. We got a jam-packed Friday here, 3:30 Eastern. Next one up in the Liberty Bowl, and it is Memphis and Iowa State. Memphis, the quote-unquote road team. However, they're playing in their home stadium here, guys, and they're catching 10.5. Iowa State minus 10 in the hook as the favorite, 57.5 being the total. Memphis, Iowa State in the Liberty Bowl. Memphis, Tennessee here, Matt.
Both teams pretty clean in terms of the transfer portal. Memphis has 2 offensive linemen who are in the portal and a safety, Cameron Smith. But like Memphis's defense was so bad this season, I don't think it makes it worse than possibly it already was. For Iowa State, running backs Eli Sanders and Cartavius Norton, both are in the transfer portal. Abu Samu will be the starting running back most likely, and starting safety Malik Verdon is 50-50 after a fractured forearm. So we don't know if he's going to play in this game. Obviously, you mentioned Memphis is home. But like Memphis should have lost a lot of games this season. They needed some miracles late in some games to get some victories. They've played so badly. I understand that they're home, Drew. And I don't know if I can lay the 9.5 with Iowa State because, Rocco Becht has been hot and cold all season. The one thing I kind of trust here is Iowa State's defense. As you notice, pretty much everybody's playing in this game from their defense. Memphis's team total is 23.5. If this thing goes up anymore, you might see a 24.5 with Memphis. I might look at the under for the team total there. I just don't. I'm not laying that many points with Iowa State, and I'm certainly not taking the points with Memphis because they should have lost a bunch of games this season. Tough game to handicap, but I lean more towards Iowa State doing what I want them to than Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis, that offense wasn't the same as we saw in years past, for sure. We got one more game here on Friday, then we'll hit the Saturday slate, guys. Remember, Viva Tequila Seltzer, sponsor of the show. Refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 4.5% ABV. Viva, the perfect drink for your post-game or pre-game celebrations, as it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. You can get it ordered to your house. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Guys, check it out. Huckleberry, the light blue, is my favorite. We get Missouri and Ohio State to end it on Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern here in the Cotton Bowl, Matt. 49 being the total, -3. That's the Buckeyes is the home favorite. SEC Big Ten battle here in the Cotton Bowl, Matt.
So it's interesting because obviously, motivation, people still think that, Ohio State is going to lack motivation because they lost to Michigan and now they're in the Cotton Bowl. And if you looked up motivation in the dictionary for the bowl game, it would be Missouri. Like Missouri is probably extremely excited to be in this bowl game. And you look, they have nobody in the transfer portal. They have nobody in terms of opting out. They have 2 guys, Ennis Rakestraw and Tyron Hopper. That's 2 defensive guys who are missing the game due to injuries. But that means Brady Cook is going to be back. Cody Schrader is going to play. Obviously, their wide receiving core, which is really good. So you're getting a really good Missouri focused effort here. And then on Ohio State side, I think people were expecting more. I think people were betting on Missouri, expecting Marvin Harrison Jr. not to play, and Travion Henderson and Emeka Egbuka. I think they were expecting that Ohio State was going to be ravaged by opt-outs, but they really haven't so far. Now, look, we are still, 48 hours? 48 hours away from game time or so. So things could change, but the only guys in the transfer portal are Kyle McCord, welcome to Syracuse, wide receiver Julian Fleming, and running back Chip Trainum, who's the 3rd stringer or backup because Mayan Williams was hurt earlier in the year. Devin Brown is not a bad quarterback to go with for Ohio State in this situation. It's not like he has no experience. So I get why people are betting on Ohio State in this situation because, Harrison is going to play. Henderson is going to play. All the defensive guys are going to play. I think you said there was a 3 out there, Drew, right?
Yeah, it's 3 pretty much across the board.
I would lean to Missouri in this case. I really do think that you will have a really motivated Missouri team in this situation. Plus, by the way, I noticed, Drew, their SEC schedule next year, Missouri's, is ridiculously easy. I mean, they got a pretty nice path. They might be a sleeper team to make the playoff next year. And I think that this is one of those games. I really like Drink. I think Drink's a great coach. I would take Missouri plus the 3 here. It could even go up more, maybe, Drew. You think there's a chance that if no one else opts out, this thing goes to 3.5, or you think this thing stays at 3?
I think it probably stays at 3, but it could bounce around. Actually, there is a shop out there at 3 in the hook, so it looks like we're leaning that way. Although there is a 2.5 out there too, so there's opinion on both sides of it, but a good one either way. That's Friday night lights here, guys, in the Cotton Bowl. We got a Saturday slate here to end it. Mississippi and Penn State. We get We Are in Hotty Toddy, 48.5 being the total, -4 in the hook. That's the Nittany Lions as the favorite. This is the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia, kicking us off on Saturday, Matt.
Yeah, and as we get further away from today, there's still things that could change for these games. These two rosters are pretty clean. You look at Ole Miss, the only opt-out is a defensive end. You look at Penn State, Manny Diaz went to Duke. Congratulations. Duke was able to keep him the head coach longer than Temple was. So congratulations to Duke. Their only opt-out is defensive end Chop Robinson. I think, and I'll admit this right up front, I'm heavily biased. I think James Franklin's a terrible coach. I dislike Penn State. I like when they lose publicly. It's the Philadelphia in me. I was raised to hate Penn State. To me, Drew, getting Ole Miss as an underdog with essentially a full roster here, I just don't trust James Franklin in big games. I just think James Franklin's a bad coach. I think Lane Kiffin will outcoach him in so many different ways, and you lose your defensive coordinator in this situation. I kind of like Ole Miss as the underdog here. You're the SEC guy. Are you on the same team as I am?
I think so. I haven't bet it yet, but one thing I'll bring up, you bring up James Franklin. What do we know about him? He'll like to punch in another touchdown if he can. And on the other side of things, Lane Kiffin, I mean, he's even publicly said he's aware of the point spread. And what I'm getting at is both teams, given the chance at the end, would look to score another touchdown, would look to score touchdowns, not kick field goals. And we get a total under 50 at 48.5, Matt. I kind of like it up and over. I mean, it's controlled climate there where the Falcons play their home games in Atlanta, fast track. I like it up and over. So that's the way I would go with it. We get Auburn and Maryland next game up, 2:00 Eastern, Music City Bowl, Nissan Stadium, Nashville, Tennessee. Another NFL stadium here, guys. This is where the Titans play. 6.5. That's War Eagle as the road favorite. Actually, Bet Online moving to 7 now. So it looks like some Auburn money coming in. 47 being the total. Auburn in Maryland, Matt.
Well, you are the Auburn guy, so I'll give you some information, and then I'll eagerly await what you think. Maryland, obviously, the story is Tua's younger brother's not playing in this game. So Maryland's quarterback situation is Billy Edwards Jr. and Cameron Edge, two guys who have played less than 100 snaps in their college careers. You also have Antoine Littleton II. He's a running back who's in the transfer portal. Tight end Corey Dyches, he's in the transfer portal. So a lot of pieces to this offense are not going to be here. Cornerback Tarheeb Still. Sorry if I butcher any of these names. I'm just merely reading them off. Tarheeb Still, he's not going to play for Maryland. And then on the Auburn side, obviously Robbie Ashford being in the transfer portal. There's a couple guys, a couple corners, and a defensive tackle opting out here. The one thing that kind of stuck out to me about Auburn, they're 1-6 against bowl teams this year. Their only win was back in week 2 when they won at Cal. So they haven't beaten a bowl team since week 2 in this situation. But I don't know if I could take Maryland without their starting quarterback. I don't know if I could take Maryland here. My lean would be Maryland, but I need a better quarterback situation here. I don't trust Auburn. Obviously the SEC, versus the Big Ten. Big Ten has been a better conference this year than the SEC has arguably. So my lean would be to Maryland. I'm probably not going to play anything in this game, or I'll just wait and see what you say, being the Auburn Tiger guy.
I mean, I read some of the opt-outs for Maryland, for sure, a factor. You bring up, Robbie Ashford. I guess he's split time at the quarterback position, if you want to look at it favorably in his side of things. I like Auburn here. I haven't bet it, though. I don't know that I will. But, hey, we'll see if they get it going. At times, they haven't showed up for bowl games, but we do get the change at the head coaching position. So I don't know. I lean Auburn, but I haven't bet it, Matt. We get Georgia, Florida State up next. Orange Bowl, Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida. It is the Georgia Bulldogs taking heavy money, 19.5 as the road favorite. 44 being the total. Look, Matt, I mean, Florida State, interesting handicap here. They get left out of the playoffs, but they have a whole lot of people not playing in this game. So what are you liking with the Bulldogs and the Seminoles?
Yeah, let me illustrate that for the offense. Tate Rodemaker portal, opting out, wide receivers Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, tight end Jaheim Bell, running back Trey Benson, all on the offensive side. Defensive side, Jared Verse, Fabian Lovett, both opting out. DJ Lundy, Joshua Farmer, both in the transfer portal. So, like, look, on the one hand, Florida State, should want to show up to show the committee up. But, like, we just saw, I think it was last week, Mike Norvell said the team's still struggling with getting left out. And so, like, I know they're going to be essentially home. It's in Miami Gardens, so there'll be a lot of Florida State fans. But, like, here's the funny thing. Their team total is 13.5. 13.5. Now, here's the other thing, Drew. Like, obviously, look, Carson Beck is playing in this game. We just saw a story. I think I saw it coming in today. Blake Bowers is questionable for this game. Another guy was questionable for this game. They have a couple of guys in the transfer portal, not huge names. But, like, why does Georgia want to be here? Like, Georgia should also feel like they don't want to be in this game. So, look, I'm not telling anybody to take Florida State plus those points because I don't know how they're going to score in this game. But, like, why are we all just assuming that Georgia's going to show up, play like they are supposed to, be this great team? I think it seems like the handicap to everybody is true. Florida State's not showing up, so they're going to lose by a lot. Georgia has to show up too, So to me, I'm looking at probably like a Florida State team total under. If you can get the 13.5, you're not getting a 14.5. The books won't let it, or they'll be heavily juiced. I don't see how Florida State scores in this game. But I could also see an under. Like, how is Georgia going to score, especially if they're not 100% focused in this one?
I kind of want Florida State to win this game, Matt, and then claim the national championship and hang a banner, all of that stuff. That just seems like a whole lot of controversy that could be fun to talk about in the offseason, man. Do you think they would actually do that? Yeah,
they hired the same guy that Central Florida did to take care of their banners and all their parties and stuff. But, like, I mean, it would be huge if they would score in this game. I just, Brock Glenn obviously had some time out there and everything, and he didn't look great, and he doesn't have any of his weapons there. But, like, I'm just saying, Drew, like, Georgia's motivation is what for this game? Like, they think they should be in the playoff too. And so what? Because Florida State has nobody, Georgia's just going to show up and win. And they certainly can. Don't get me wrong. Like, they certainly can. But I think we're all just assuming Georgia's going to treat this thing like a tremendous game and just steamroll them because why? Like, why are we assuming that?
Matt, we got one game left here, guys. Shout out to the sponsors of the show, betonline.ag. If you're looking for a sports book, one of the best, if not the best out there, betonline.ag. The game starts here. And Viva Tequila Seltzer, guys, check them out. Huckleberry, again, my favorite, the light blue one, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Get it shipped to your house. Our belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. Last game here, the Arizona Bowl. We will have part 3, guys, wherever you're downloading your podcast at. Every game on the board coming up. Probably go tomorrow, but Toledo and Wyoming to end part number 2 here. It is Wyoming, the Cowboys, minus 3.5 point favorites, 44.5 being the total. So we get the MAC in the Mountain West. Matt, are you liking anything in the Arizona Bowl?
I like Wyoming here. I like Wyoming. I like the team total under for Toledo, 20.5. Maybe you wait. If this thing somehow goes up, you get a 21.5. DeQuan Finn's in the transfer portal. Tucker Gleason's going to start. That's not a bad thing. Tucker Gleason's got plenty of time under center for Toledo. But Craig Bohl's retiring after this game. I just think that this is one of those things. We saw San Diego State get a really huge win to close out the Brady Hoke era at the end of the regular season. I think we get our best effort from Wyoming, who's played really well down the stretch. You remember, Wyoming played what? Texas Tech. They played Texas. They played Appalachian State. They've tested themselves so much out of Mountain West play. They're going to be closer to home because this game's in Tucson, Arizona. How many Toledo fans are going to travel for this game? Is Toledo thrilled to be in this game? Now, granted, look, they're 5-1 versus bowl teams this season. That loss, the Illinois loss, it was the Miami, Ohio loss in the title game, but they also have that close loss to Illinois. I expect a great effort from Wyoming here. I like Wyoming in this game. I think that they take care of business and send Craig Bohl out with a victory.
That's sad. He's retiring. In my opinion, he's one of the best coaches in college football. But hey, he's getting up there in age, so good for him. Matt, we're running up against it time-wise, man. So not sure if you had anything Liberty and Oregon, and also final thoughts for the show. And do you have a best bet for the watchers?
So I think the Liberty Oregon handicap is still based on Bo Nix. Everybody says Bo Nix is playing. I still think there's a chance he's not going to play. Now, I have no inside knowledge on that. I'm just saying things change as we get closer to game time. Maybe somebody else is taking more snaps. I'd say any sort of handicap in this game involves Bo Nix. Obviously, we're 4 or 5 days away from that, so things can change. I think Liberty can score a little bit here, but I think Oregon, if they're focused, they're going to put up 40-something, 50-something points in this game. I think the over comes into play a little bit. I think Caden Salter, breaks one, maybe two. I could see like a 51-14 game, all based off of Bo Nix if he plays in this game. So I don't know. My best bet for this one, I'm going to go back to the Sun Bowl here, Drew, where basically nobody's playing in this game. I'm going to give you the dual best bet here. The team total under for Notre Dame, 23.5. The team total under for Oregon State, 17.5. As I said, if you don't have team totals on your books, taking the under in this game is probably the way to go. But the offensive explosion, I don't know where it's coming in this game. Oregon State's without DJU. Their backup quarterback, Damian Martinez, is gone. And Notre Dame has pretty much all their wide receivers gone. Sam Hartman's gone. Audric Estime's not playing. Their best tackles are not playing. So it feels like this is going to be a really ugly game. So give me the 2-team total under here, and let's hope for a 17-10 contest.
Awesome stuff, Matt. As always, guys, follow him on Twitter at MidMajorMatt. Check out his show, ESPN Richmond. Matt, that's weekdays at 4 o'clock, is it?
3 to 4, and we'll start up again in 2024. We're taking the week off. So, 3 to 4 Eastern time, 106.1 ESPN in Richmond, and we'll start back up next week.
All right, man. Anything else before we shut it down?
Nope. Looking forward to it. Obviously, bowl season's the best, and hopefully we gave you enough information to help you bet on it.
All right, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with part number 3, the final part for bowl season. For Mid-Major Matt, I'm Drew Martin. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com and betonline.ag. Huge shout out to them, sponsors of the show. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, every game on the board, please comment below what you thought of the show, what you agree with, disagree with, what you're looking to bet, and why is all welcome. Also on Twitter as well, at MidMajorMatt, at Drew Martin Bets, and the best way on podcast form, wherever you're downloading your podcasts. Every game on the board. Be back tomorrow. Cash those tickets until then. Thanks for tuning in.